I've been in Korea twice before. I planned to come earlier, but first there was COVID, then there was the crisis in my own country, first the attempt to destroy the democratic system in Israel, then the war with Hamas and Hezbollah. So it took me some time to come again.
손 들어주시면 제가 이렇게 보고
Well, I'm not an expert on Korean politics or society, and I know from my country, from Israel, that it's too easy for foreigners to come visit for a few days, think they know everything, and have these very strong opinions about what happens and what should be done, and I try to avoid this. So I'll just say two things. First, a bit kind of almost humoristic. I was in India in December when the attempted coup happened, and I woke up in the morning and one of my team members told me there was a coup in Korea. And I said, oh, finally, a coup in North Korea. Finally, they'll get rid of him. And he says, no, in South Korea. But seriously, I mean, in a way, it wasn't such a big surprise because we see this thing happening again and again in more countries. And actually, this is a very old problem in democracy that we know from history. People think that coups are something that is done by military officers, that they go with tanks and take over the country. But in history, a lot of coups are actually done from above, by the lawful government itself. The big problem in democracy always is that democracy is a system when you give power to somebody for a limited amount of time on condition that afterwards he give the power back and you can choose differently next time. And the question is, what happens if the person or the party that you give power to doesn't want to give it back? Now that they have the power, they can use the power that they gained democratically in order to stay in power, even in an undemocratic way. You first use the law in order to gain power, and then you use your power in order to distort and to destroy the law. Now, to prevent this, democracies have several what is known as checks and balances, or systems that limit the power of the government itself. Two of the most important such checks are a free media and free courts, independent courts. The media's role is to report if the government does something unlawful or corrupt or some big mistake. So the media's role is to inform people about it. And the courts should have the power to prevent, to stop unlawful behavior, even of the government. And what strongmen, leaders who want to be dictators, they discovered in recent years that there is a kind of playbook. How do you turn a democracy into a dictatorship? You destroy the free press, you destroy the independence of the courts, and then you can do anything you want. In such a situation, you can still go on holding elections, but these elections are now just a ritual in a dictatorship and not truly free and fair elections. And we see it happen in many countries. There are elections in Russia, there are elections even in North Korea. There are elections. So the fact that there are elections is not a good enough indication that this is a democracy. Because without a free press and free courts, the government can simply rig the elections. So the real question whether a country is democratic is the question, what limits the power of the government? What mechanism is there in the country that if the government, let's say, wants to abolish opposition parties or take voting rights from citizens, what mechanism limits the power of the ruling coalition? That's the key question for democracy. I think they understand better than any more high, but I think this is